All right, let's just jump right in. Today we're diving into this mind-bending explainer on whether our brains are actually biological radios tuning into the hidden frequencies of consciousness. We are exploring a super compelling new framework proposed by researcher Mohammad Dadfar-Farani. It's called the Resonance Frequency Coding Principle, or RFCP. And let me tell you, this framework fundamentally challenges basically everything we thought we knew about how subjective experience arises from ordinary physical matter. To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to climb what you could call a cosmic ladder. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the mystery of consciousness, then introduce the resonance frequency solution. After that, we're zooming way into the microscale with quantum tubes, zooming back out to the macroscale with brain networks, and finally, we'll hit the cosmic scale, universal resonance. Let's get to it.
So, does your brain actually create consciousness, or does it just receive it? Honestly, this is the ultimate hard problem that has stumped the brightest minds for decades. I mean, how does wet, physical matter suddenly have a feeling of what it's like to be alive? Well, Farani argues that we've all fallen for something called the segregation fallacy. Basically, we've been looking at the human brain in complete isolation. We try to solve this puzzle using purely biology or purely physics, instead of treating it like the multi-layered, highly interactive system it really is.
Which brings us to Section 1, the mystery of consciousness, looking at the hard problem and that segregation fallacy we just mentioned. Now, what we're talking about here is a massive paradigm shift, literally flipping the script. We're moving completely away from the old traditional view, the idea that physical brain tissue just magically generates thoughts out of thin air. Instead, we're looking at a radical new view. The brain as a highly sophisticated antenna. It doesn't actually create the signal, it just receives and decodes it.
Now, it's not like scientists haven't tried to solve this before. We've got these heavy-hitting theories that definitely give us some clues, but they kind of miss the big multi-scale picture. For instance, integrated information theory, or IIT, it focuses heavily on integrated information, but, well, it struggles a lot with actual testability. Then there's the Global Neuronal Workspace, or GNW. It looks at how the brain broadcasts information, but it's totally boxed in by network-level organization. And then CMI treats consciousness as the brain's electromagnetic field, which is super cool, but it still needs to be extended to actually cover the full, rich feeling of human experience. Basically, they're all stuck looking at just one specific scale.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the Resonance Frequency Solution, introducing RFCP. So the absolutely crucial point of the Resonance Frequency Coding Principle, or RFCP, is how it brings all these fragmented scientific layers together. It proposes that consciousness isn't an accident, it's a fundamental feature of reality that shows up through multiscale resonance patterns. It's not just one single isolated mechanism. It is quite literally a symphony of resonances, echoing all the way from the tiny quantum level straight up to the cosmic level. To really grasp this framework, we need to look at its 4 fundamental principles. You can think of these exactly like the tuning dials on your biological radio. First up, the field principle. Consciousness is basically the pervasive operating system of the entire cosmos. Second is the resonance principle. Your brain-body receiver has to physically tune into specific frequencies to experience anything at all. Third, the receiver-decoder principle. The brain translates those raw cosmic signals into what philosophers call qualia, the actual rich feeling of an experience. And finally, the spectral principle. Consciousness isn't just an on-off switch, no, it's a continuous, multi-layered spectrum, kind of like light.
Let's zoom all the way in for Section 3, the microscale quantum tubes, which is level A of our ladder.
This level leans really heavily on Orch-OR theory. That stands for Orchestrated Objective Reduction, proposed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, and it's a wild idea. It proposes that consciousness isn't just chemical, it's actually quantum. The idea here is that discrete quantum computations are constantly happening and then collapsing right inside tiny little structures in our neurons, and they do this at roughly 40 Hertz. That suggests the actual temporal grain of our reality, the frame rate of life, if you will, is built on these incredibly rapid-fire, tiny quantum events.
Check out these spirally arranged tubulin proteins. These are called microtubules. They're these tiny cylindrical structures only about 25 nanometers wide. And according to this framework, this is the literal subatomic hardware where all that quantum coherence actually happens. This is where the fundamental clock rate of our subjective experience is set, giving us these discrete 25 millisecond moments of a conscious now. It's pretty mind-blowing to think of your proteins acting as tiny quantum qubits, right?
Now, if you're sitting there wondering, okay, but how can invisible waves possibly dictate physical reality at such a microscopic level? Well, take a look at cymatics. This is where acoustic sound waves literally generate complex 3D geometric forms out of particulate matter. It perfectly illustrates how acoustic frequencies can physically shape matter. And that is a concept right at the beating heart of the sonic theory that heavily influences RFCP.
All right, let's zoom back out a bit for Section 4. The macro scale, brain networks, covering levels B through D.
So step by step, we start scaling up. At level B, local neuronal firing phase locks into weak electromagnetic fields. This is exactly what we measure as EEG bands, your theta and gamma waves. Then we hit level C. Those local fields synchronize into massive, global networks across the brain. And finally, level D. This is where the brain tunes into a distributed, multidimensional, holographic memory workspace. So your brain isn't just sending signals down physical wires, it's actually creating shared wave modes.
Building on those earlier CMI field theories we talked about, we see how synchronous neuronal firing creates a unified electromagnetic field. And this field is absolutely crucial because it solves what's known as the binding problem. Like, how do our scattered sensory inputs, the sight of a shiny red apple, the crunch sound it makes when you bite it, its sweet taste, how are those bound together into one cohesive single experience? The answer? This electromagnetic field.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about level D, because this is fascinating. What if your memories aren't actually stored in some specific physical filing cabinet inside your head? The RFC model suggests that memories are actually stored as distributed interference patterns, literally like a hologram. The beauty of this is that the act of remembering is really just your brain phase-locking with past wave patterns. Honestly, it perfectly explains why a single tiny cue, like catching a sudden whiff of a certain perfume, can instantly trigger a massive unified flood of childhood memories. You aren't just retrieving a file, you are resonating with the whole pattern.
And now for the final stretch, Section 5, the cosmic scale, universal resonance, looking at levels E through G.
Hold on to your hats because things get pretty wild here. At level E, we scale up to our brains actually syncing with the Earth's Schumann resonances. That's the global electromagnetic resonance vibrating in the Earth's cavity at around 7.83 Hertz. Then, level F looks at interpersonal resonance. Think about the palpable, measurable energy of a completely synchronized crowd, like at a massive concert or a protest. Our fields are actually interacting. And finally, level G. This theorizes a global resonance with a fundamental universal field of awareness that pervades all of reality. We are quite literally tuned into the universe.
I love this quote because it perfectly distills the aspectral view of RFCP. It actually solves the hard problem by saying, look, from the outside, consciousness looks like measurable physics, math, and wave frequencies. But from the inside, those exact same coherent patterns are felt as the rich, undeniable feeling of being alive. They aren't causing each other. They are literally the exact same thing, just viewed from two different perspectives.
So it leaves us with a truly profound question about our deeply interconnected place in the universe. I mean, if RFCP is right, you aren't just some isolated biological machine generating thoughts in the dark. No way. You are a magnificent multiscale quantum receiver, constantly turning the fundamental frequencies of the cosmos into the beautiful experience of reality. It turns everything we thought we knew about our isolated minds entirely upside down. So, what frequency are you tuning into today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.